Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to the pilot episode of Tripod. Tripod is your conversation. Yeah. There you go. Tripod is your conversation about life and your life for the week. I'm your host, if you're going to call me your host, Arnold Gamboa, and I'm here with me, two other guys. I have Prudencio Mariano, Mupera Verso,
Marciano.
otherwise known as Prudy. Say hi, Kuya Prudy.
Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Tripod pilot episode.
Yeah, and of course, we also have the white guy with a brown heart,
Yay!
Mike Medlin. Say hi, Mike.
Hey guys, Pretty, your name sounds very impressive. Very intimidating when you get the whole name.
Could you imagine if I say that to barista in Starbucks?
There's not enough room on the cup.
Yeah, and this is the pilot episode. I couldn't imagine that I'm going to say that. I only hear pilot episodes as terms to
Telenovelas.
telenovelas. Yeah. But yeah, we're testing this out. This is something that we thought about as friends and as leaders at Life City Church. We thought that we can make use of this platform. Everyone else is quarantined, and we have a lot of time in our hands right now. And so, why not do it, right? And so it's going to be a 10, 15-minute conversation about life and your life in general for the week. And we have a lot of things to talk about. And this is a pilot episode. If you like what you're hearing, and tell us that you like what you're hearing, so that we can try to record some more in the following weeks. You can subscribe, or you can like, parang YouTuber talaga, no? Subscribe or you like, and we'll know if you appreciate that, and we'll be able to record some more. But we'll
And
try
give comments. Give comments. Give comments.
Down below.
Down below. Yeah, so we're going to try to do this every week, and hopefully it's going to be something that people will be able to appreciate and be blessed by the things that we're going to be talking about. And sometimes it's going to be weird because we're weird people, and so bear with us. And I hope our weirdness will bless you at the same time. So how is it going, guys? For those of you who are tuning in, maybe 2-3 weeks from now, we're recording this April the 6th. And as a context, we are on the third week of, is this the third week or?
No, it's approaching to fourth week.
Fourth week, yeah.
This is the fourth week of the enhanced community quarantine, otherwise known also as lockdown. We are all locked into our homes at this point. And how is it going so far, guys, being locked down in your homes so far?
Well, enjoying it. Going out every now and then, going to the roof deck because I'm staying in a building, and looking all over Metro Manila.
I'm feeling a bit of cabin fever here at home. Stuck in the house pretty much most of the day. I get out. I was running in the neighborhood outside of our village, but they put an end to that. So now I'm just stuck inside of our village. And you guys have been here. It's a tiny village. It's just a little triangle. So whenever I go out to get my exercises around the same little triangle over and over and over. So, cabin fever.
Are there cobwebs already in your cave?
There shouldn't be. I have time to clean them now.
But both of you know that I do most of my work at home, even before the quarantine. 80% work at home, about 20% I go out and work. But of course, 100% of the time now, I do my work at home. But also 100% of the times, I have the kids with me today. Not that I don't like my kids, of course I love my kids, but you can imagine the kind of adjustments that I would have to do for me to be able to be productive. And this is something that I am still adjusting, and trying to do the best that I can to be more productive at work.
I can
So
totally
yeah.
relate with that too, because my kids are here at home with me, and normally it's a bit of a trade-off, honestly, because my kids go to school. I have to drive them. There's no school service for them, so I drive them in the mornings and go and pick them up in the afternoon. So it's a trade-off in that I no longer have to do that. But now they're here with me all day long, and just like what we're doing right now requires a degree of quiet in the house. Much of what I do over the course of my normal day, besides just this, requires a degree of quiet in the home, and so it makes life a little interesting, doesn't it? It's a different world we're living in right now.
So it's an advantage on my end because I do not have a kid. I do not have kids, and I have silence all over.
If you want mine, I can bring at least one.
Oh, Johan can stay with me. And Oreo. And Oreo.
You may regret that request.
Well, we're having fun, and that's good. We need to have fun, but the reality is that out there, people might be suffering, and we're not diminishing that realities at this point. In fact, we can switch gears and talk about what the future holds for us. I mean, we have been hearing a lot of news reports about what may happen to the economy or to the jobs out there, or even to the people that are not regularly employed, on a monthly basis. Some of them are employed or receiving salaries on a day-to-day basis. And there's the economy, not just here in the Philippines, but all over the world, are affected by this coronavirus situation. What do you think, guys? How do you see? What do you think would be the new normal right after this coronavirus experience that we're having right now?
That's really hard to say, isn't it? This is not something that any of us have ever experienced, and probably never even thought we would experience in our lifetime. I admit that I'm a bit of a fan of apocalyptic style movies. I like movies like The Day After Tomorrow and what is that one with Brad Pitt? World War Z, those kind of end of the world type things. But man, none of us really expected to live through that, especially not just like flipping on a switch. Like yesterday was normal and today is absolute, what is this? Chaos. So none of us really anticipated this in this way. So, wow, what will the new normal look like? I pray that there'll be some, not just negative results of the virus, but there will be some positive things also. And I can begin to see some of those things that the Lord is doing in my life through this. I think one of those things for me, one of the positive things so far is that people are so much more important now. That the one thing that we've really been denied of is we've been denied of our people. We've been distanced from one another. And for so many years in my life, I really did pride myself on kind of being a standalone kind of guy and not really one in need of a lot of relationships. I didn't see myself as what I would categorize as a needy person. And now the Lord has me at a place in my life rethinking a lot of the things that I had thought of myself before, and really seeing the value of friendships and brothers and sisters in the Lord. So I hope that part of our new normal, whenever the dust settles, that I hope part of that will be that we'll value our relationships more and give less priority, less significance to things that really don't matter a whole lot in the grand scheme of things.
That's what some members of our life group yesterday, we had our conversation, and a lot of them have recognized that they're taken for granted relationships.
Mm.
They're, or a lot of us, all of us have taken for granted face-to-face conversation that is very, we never thought that it's valuable. Right now we have conversation in online through technology, but it never replaces a one-on-one conversation. So probably people after this, people will give deeper value to conversation on a
Mm.
personal and on a face-to-face physical basis. What do you think of
Yeah.
that?
Yeah, that's right. Uh, I'm seeing a lot of bad reports, and the problem with social media is you see everything, good and bad. I'm seeing bad reports. Some businesses closing down. Some uh, employees getting laid off their jobs. And this is as a direct result of what's going on right now. Uh, how do you how do you what do you think about the bad effects of this whole experiences that we are um, undergoing through at this point? What do you think would be the general experiences of everyone else around us, including yourselves, including myself? What do you think would be the general experiences?
On my side, my regular thing, the regular thing that I do is I'm a trainer and facilitator for different companies, organization, and all of this stopped because of uh, the the crisis that we have. Some people, some consultancy organizations have proceeded on through online also, but a lot of us, our appointments, our schedules are canceled. So it's difficult on our end. We lose income. We lose the source of sustenance, and that is quite not good, or it's completely not good at all. And I could imagine with a lot of people, just like what we said, those who are working, particularly here in the Philippines, we call them the Indo, and
Contract.
the
Uh-huh.
contractual workers, and a lot of them are in different sales industry. So it stopped. I mean, it stopped. The malls is closed, and you could imagine they came over to Manila. They came over to the city to work, to send some amount to their families back in the provinces. And without work, how can they survive here? And they cannot go back to their places, to their home provinces. And I could imagine how they feel about it. I could imagine the stress. I could imagine the worry of a day-to-day basis. Where will they get their money to buy food, uh, to survive, to pay for the rent, to pay the bills? And it is like terrible situation that we have for people. For those who are mostly are people in the uh, financial industry, especially in the insurance, and also they're
Wait there,
are
Kipuds.
affected. Okay.
Wait there. I was chatting with some of our people at Live City Church. I think right after this, the 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 insurance peeps in our church will benefit from this.
Yes, that's one good thing. That's one good thing. They will,
I
but
think right after this corona experience, a lot of people will get life insurance and
yeah,
health
that's one good
insurance.
thing to them. That's one good thing.
But
On
yeah,
the other
generally
hand, as
speaking,
of On at the present time, they couldn't approach people.
Of course, of course,
People right now are reserving their funds for their sustenance on the here and now.
of course, of course. Yeah, done, done, man. Mike.
I'll piggyback off of that because of where you left that off. People are reserving their funds for their own personal needs at the moment, and it's a matter of have to. You have to take care of your family. You're the only one in that position to do that. And when that happens, unfortunately, the flip side of that is that giving can come to a standstill. And for someone like me, uh, my primary responsibility in the Philippines is I'm here as a missionary. And so the provision for my family comes through individual donors and churches back in the U.S. Well, the individual donors, many of them, just like here in the Philippines, are no longer able to work. And when they're no longer able to work, they're cut off in their income. So they're doing exactly what we're talking about here. And so we're seeing a dip in giving and funding from our individual donors. And then at the same time, with churches, just like here, what we're experiencing here on the micro level, at the local level, it's happening macro all over the world. People are not able to get together to have mass gatherings, and churches have been canceled in the U.S. And when churches can't meet, offerings and tithes can't be collected. And there's, of course, digital opportunities to do that, but a lot of people don't use that technology for that just yet. And so when churches can't collect offerings and tithes, then of course they can't support missionaries. So that's the reality that we're beginning to deal with now, and trying to make adjustments accordingly to our budget. And then again, of course, the sad thing for us, it just continues to trickle on down the line that we have to begin to limit some of the things that we do as missionaries to serve those that we're called here to serve. So it's just ongoing. It just keeps trickling on down the line.
Yeah,
Mhm.
yeah. Everyone is experiencing that. In fact, me personally, and you know, I've started losing a couple of clients at least. Of course, when they can't do their business, we can't do our business. My prayer is that one of my biggest clients is in the U.S. My hope is that they will still continue to do the same business that they've been doing in such a way that they'll also be able to continue contracting me, because we know that there's a lot of things also happening in the US right now. They are hardly hit by this crisis themselves. And so my hope is that they will still continue doing the same kind of business. If that doesn't happen, it's a different kind of ball game as far as me and my household also is concerned. So everyone else really is affected by this. On the other hand, of course, we know that if there's a bad situation that all of us are into at this point. We are in a war, they say. This is wartime, and everyone feels the pressure. Everyone feels depressed. For some of us, some of the people that are listening to us, they feel anxious. They feel like it's the end of the world for them and their families. What do you think is one encouragement that you can share with them at this point in their lives? What do you think is the best way for us to describe how God and His Word, from His Word, cares for those of us who are lamenting, for those of us who are uh, still trying to figure it out, for all of us in this situation that are anxious, who are afraid? What do you think is God telling us at this point in our lives? I'd like to request Kuya Pudi first to talk about this, and then, of course, Mike.
Um, I have a micro vlog in one of my topics, of the topics that I covered regarding this crisis that we have, is one particular verse. I talk about Psalms 23. It's one of my favorite chapters where, yes, life is very uncertain. We never thought that we will come to this point, and it is global. Before, what's happening here, it's not so much affected with what's going on in the US or in Europe, but right now we are one in experiencing this thing.
Mm.
And David, on that beautiful passage, when he said that even if we walk through the valley of the shadow of death, coronavirus is causing death right and left, and we are on that valley, and it is fearful. But it is so beautiful when he said, even if I walk through the valley of the shadow of death, I will fear no evil, for you are with me. That's one thing that we can hold on to, and probably should any one of us go through the deepness of our financial condition, or deepness in our physical condition too. Probably some of you are afraid of catching the being positive in corona. But then let us be assured that no matter what, whatever happens, death is real, problems are real, bad issues are real. But fear not, because He is with us.
Yeah. Mike?
Well, for me, again, just speaking from my personal struggle, um, I find it so interesting, the faithfulness of God and His sovereignty. As you walk with Him, uh, you begin to look back and you see how He's put the puzzle pieces together and how He's dropped things into your life just at the perfect timing. And I just completed a course in school that talks about um, God being our provider. And be honest and real, just a little confession from my life before. I used to take a lot of pride in my ability to provide for my family back in the U.S. when I was working and receiving salary, and things were a totally different paradigm for us at that time, at least in my way of thinking. And then when I became a missionary, I began to look at finances in a totally different light. That I was no longer earning income, but these were God's funds. But the real truth of the matter is that they've always been God's funds. And God has always been the provider. My job in the past was just the mechanism for which God allowed the money to come into our family, but God was the provider. And you know what? The same is true for us still today, even in my situation as a missionary. Our donors and the churches that support us are only the mechanism. God is the provider. And for the people that attend Life City Church, and for anyone else that might be listening to this, your employer is not your provider.
Yeah.
If you're an entrepreneur, your business is not your provider. God is your provider. And just a couple of quick verses to speak some encouragement to you. I know they certainly have to me over the past couple of days. This is coming from Matthew chapter 6. Therefore, I tell you, do not be anxious about your life, what you will eat or what you will drink, or about your body. And for many of us, we've never had to face those fears, those concerns before, but a lot of us are thinking about that right now in a way that we haven't thought about before. Is not life more than food and the body more than clothing? Look at the birds of the air. They neither sow nor reap nor gather into barns, and yet your heavenly Father feeds them. Are you not of more value than they?
Wow.
And then looking over to Philippians, this is going to be part maybe of our message this coming weekend, so I don't want to get too deep into this. But what a great verse that so many of us quote normally out of context, that I can do all things through him who strengthens me. But when you look at that context, Paul is talking about He's been in situations in his life where he's had plenty, and he's had situations in his life where he's had very little. But God has allowed him, given him the strength to do all things in all situations. God has been faithful and has been his supply. So my encouragement to you today is not to look to your employer, not to look to your business, not to look to, in my situation, donors as your source of hope and provision, because truly they're not. They're just instruments. God is your source, and he is a faithful source and will be faithful through Corona as he has been through all of your life, and continue to look to him. And he will be your great constant throughout this entire scenario that we're facing right now.
Yeah, everyone might be anxious, well, to some degree, one way or the other. Some of you are afraid of what might happen in the future, and that's fine. I mean, that's normal. Don't ever castigate yourself for feeling that way, because that's the reality of the situation right now. And you, Mike, mentioned about Philippians, and that's going to be part of the message. But the main focus of the preaching this Sunday is verses Philippians chapter 4, verses 6 to 7. And I'd like to read this as a way for us to as an action plan for all of us. We are all feeling anxious. We are all feeling afraid of what might happen. It's uncertain times, but here's what Paul says: do not be anxious about anything, but in every situation, whether it's good, bad, uncertain, in any situation, by prayer and petition, with thanksgiving or praise, present your request to God, and the peace of God, which transcend all understanding, will guard your hearts and your minds in Christ Jesus. That's
beautiful.
our main defense right now. That will guard our hearts is prayer and petition. And it's during these times that we're all locked in, we all have times to pray and thank God. But of course, it's better said than done. It's for most of us, it's really hard also to do that. But it's an encouragement for all of us. We can pray, we can thank God for and look back for what he has done in the past, and we can all say that God has been faithful in the past, and there's no reason that he will not be faithful for us also in the future. And that's what we can all depend on. We can all cling on to God's promises in that regard. That seals our first ever episode of the Tripod. Say goodbye, everyone. Prudy, can you say, I think you need to, let's think about some taglines on how we can say goodbye, some different ways, that's our assignment, okay? So let's try it out right now, Prudy.
See you on the next podcast. Tripod here.
Mike, good enough, okay? Good, Mike.
I'm speechless after that one. What can I say? Did it.
How can you top that? Right, so this is Arnold with Prudy and Mike. See you again next week. Hopefully Monday or Tuesday, we're going to release this regularly, and hopefully it's also going to be regularly on a weekly basis. We're going to see you again next week for the episode of Tripod. See you guys.
Bye.